Hey kids, it's Justin James, and this Justin Explains. We're looking at a lot of things. Dakosaurus, Irritator, Nigersaurus, Elasmosaurus, Stegosaurus, and more. So you may have noticed, if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, that I often will, in late July, have a lot more figures than usual, a lot of new things. And it's because there's some event that happens that celebrates the birth of my existence that compels the people who love me to buy me more toys. Anyway, so every species you see here, I've already done a video on, and below in the description I have like a link to those videos to tell you the history of the animal and so on. But with these new figures, I wanted to at least kind of show the new figure and kind of go over what's cool about it or not, or accurate about it. That being said, we'll start from left to right. We have, again, all of these guys are really cool. They're all Jurassic World series, so I've added the normal non-Jurassic World figure to give you an example. And we'll start with this guy on the end, Dakosaurus. Let's see. I didn't plan this out very well. Let's put you guys in front. You right there. How about that? Okay, so first and foremost, again, first link below will be of this guy. So this is the Safari version of him, or it. And this is the PNSO, which I, of course, always give the highest praise. And, of course, here is the Jurassic World figure of the same animal. And the idea is with Dakosaurus is, I often call them marine crocodiles. And, again, that's not entirely true. That's like a shorthand or a bridge version. The idea is that when you make a crocodile, when we define a crocodile in science, it has certain criteria and characteristics. This guy does not have all those characteristics, but if you look at the fossil record and say, who is it closest to? It's crocodiles. So for people who are not paleontologists, I use that example. But with that being said, I must now call upon the official scissors, Jurassic James, which we'll be using a lot today. And so this is a very simple open. You just snip here, easy, like it's not surgery, and right there. Okay, that was incredibly easy. I'll just put those there for good measure. And the box has its wave mates, some of which I'm going to be doing in I think I already did Boropelta. And there's some new species. I have more coming, trust me. The next like month or so, or 2 months will be great. So, when you look at the animal itself, as far as its actual features on a toy, let's see, there's no like action. You can pull here, and you get the DNA code that's so important to children today. The tail rotates this way, the arms this way, like this, like that. The mouth opens and closes. So again, proportionally, you can see compared to the, and again, for me, the PNSO models are always like the highest example, the most proportional examples. And so if the head's a little bit too big, but for this group of animals, again, in the Jurassic, and I believe early Cretaceous, some of their lineage extends, it shows the diversity of the crocodile form, the archosaur morph form, that these animals live, crocodiles, true crocodiles live on land. Some were amphibious, meaning they go in and out of the water. They're not amphibians, they go in and out of the water. And so this particular time, I mean, they've literally, like an ichthyosaur, plesiosaur, the digits have become full flippers, encased in skin, or at least to some degree. Now this one shows actual claws on the end, and I don't recall seeing that in the paper, but I mean, it's just one of those things where I don't want to, like, it's not this, but in general, cool figure, more diversity. I like that in any collection, to see more species and types. I've always railed against the idea of every year we get a new T-Rex, Velociraptor, Triceratops, Stegosaurus. It's like, okay, we got it. This is something different, so I kind of give it a great pass there. Anyway, again, link on the actual figure later on. Now, next we have Irritator. And again, Irritator is a Spinosaurid for Brazil. And I've already done the video on these guys. So here is the original Jurassic World figure. Here is the, if I remember correctly, Collect A 2011 Irritator. So it's the only one that's scientifically accurate that's on the market that I'm aware of. And of course, here is the upgrade of this one, or a repaint of it. So same rules apply. Here are the scissors. I'll just leave these on seats probably, I don't know. And so this should pop out pretty easily. And the tail is always hidden away in there, which is really cool. Let's see. You know, without fingernails, this is really... Ah, there it is. There we go. So, same as always before, you put it inside here until it clicks. And this guy here, if you don't know, my wife didn't know this actually, this is to keep the batteries from being used. So when we were in the store, my wife was like, why? It's broken, because this was like a loose piece of plastic. I said, no, this is between the actual battery. So if you push the buttons, it won't make any noise and it won't waste the battery. So if you're in a store and you see this thing hanging out with toys, don't touch that. Leave it in there because that's what keeps the batteries fresh and not touching each other. And that way when you get one and buy one, it will make noises still. But I can remove mine because I bought it. I have a receipt to show, and it does. Let's see. So first and foremost, it does the... So what I'm noticing in general with these, the different waves of Jurassic World figures is that the earlier ones do like a, let's see, where nope, yeah. So you kind of just move the tail, the head kind of thrashes like this, lots of noises, and then the new ones, in this new wave, they do this like this. For the most part, it is a retool of the original, and the idea is, what I do, well, I'll say it this way. We do not have more Irritator since I've done the last video that I'm aware of, but I do notice that the tail is way different. So this first tail is like, well, they've had a small kind of sail, maybe extended to the tail, and here you have this like whopping large fan because of the vertebra right here. And these are like more neural spines going up here, and so this is probably based on the recent discovery of Spinosaurus, the Morocco species, by Dr. Ibrahim Nazar. So the idea is that we're now looking at Spinosaurus tails as probably being bigger. Problem is, we're going to find out Spinosaurus tails, or Spinosaurid tails. This is not Spinosaurus, it's Irritator. But the idea, of course, is that they are implementing the concept and the family to this guy. To my knowledge, there is no proof that this guy has that large tail, but you know they're trying to show that the science is progressing in their own way. Let's see. Excuse me. In general, now if I were a kid, I would probably, for me, I would probably use sexual dimorphism, and that's basically that male and female. So, for example, these guys look very similar, and again, this is not based on any science for the animal. We just know, generally speaking, for many mammal species, the males are bigger. For many other species, like amphibians, females are bigger. And so reptiles, it depends on the group. But the idea here is that they're different enough that if I were a kid playing with these in my backyard, I would make that observation. That one is, obviously this one has a bigger horn on the head, or smaller. That's not really a horn, but this crest thing on the head, and I'll probably make that with a male. But the idea is that, if you're a kid, here's notes how to play with your toys, right, from Jurassic James. But anyway, overall, like I said, they have, they have similar snouts width, they have a similar length. The feet, this one's feet are bigger, but that's mainly, that is mainly because of engineering, probably because it has this extra pad right here, and we do know, looking at footprints of many dinosaurs, that like they wouldn't really have that right there. They have a pad right here in the feet, but this is probably for engineering, so it's a toy stand, which is, again, it's not about, they're not selling these as scientifically accurate specimens, so I don't get mad at them about that. But again, look, compared to the other guys, it has, yeah, this is why I don't like the ones that make noises. This guy has like a big kind of a pad there too, and we do see pads on the bottom of dinosaur feet, but they're not as big as the toys often depict them. Okay, so that's this guy, Irritator. Very irritating for me personally. So next we have, actually I'll skip ahead. This is a new Cryolophosaurus, like coming on Amazon. It is, if I recall, a Schleich. Yes, there's no year. Yeah, no year. So again, I've done a video on Cryolophosaurus already, so here's the animal itself. And let me clean up this teaching stage. There we go. And so you may remember that I already went over these guys and how their crests are. Cryolophosaurus means frozen crested lizard. It's the first dinosaur or large theropod known from Antarctica from early Jurassic period. And so we have these guys. Again, this is the icon on the website for this animal. Since I've done the video, I can't remember if I was this one or this one I bought. But again, just a repaint for both, basically. I'm a sucker for repaints. And so this guy, again, the main feature that I will point out with this little figure is that, one, the hands are correct because they're not doing the Jurassic Park, they're doing the, like this. Overall, well, the wrists are correct. The hands probably should be more like this, where there are 3 fingers, but the first inner finger should be different size, different, not as aligned as the other 2. The skull, to me, looks a lot like a Dakosaurus, and so that family of Giganotosaurus, Concavenator, those guys. This guy looks a lot like that. I'm not sure why. There's no year, right? I don't know why. But again, the Cryolophosaurus skull is like we have that, so we know how it looks. So that's kind of a weird thing to kind of change in a sense. I'm not sure why I'm trying to make it all neat. It's going to be really bad towards the end. Anyway, the point is, let's see. There we go. Okay. So next we have Nigersaurus. This is one of the ones out of the new figures I've been looking forward to because there's just not a lot of Nigersaurus figures. I only have the Safari 08, which is the first one I bought back in 20... It wasn't 08. It wasn't when it came out. Oh, it was 08. Yeah, I bought it the year it came out. Duh, I was in Nebraska at that conference about the presenting paleontology stuff. Student conference. In 09, Collect A. My wife bought this before we were dating. So Collect A again, and Safari, the bigger one. So I was looking forward to this guy. Also, there's if you buy the Safari tubes, like at Michael's Hobby Lobby, they have a skull one with a Nigersaurus skull. So when I saw this coming out, I was super excited. And here we are. And let's see. Go, and the tail, of course. Fun fact, kids, I was actually driving to Wyoming to attend the Paleo Dig in Morrison, Lake Jurassic, and when we stopped at a Walmart, when I travel, I always use the restrooms in Walmart and kind of shop around a little bit. There we go. And I saw most of what I'm showing you today in one store. And my wife was like, why don't you open it now? And I said, I can't open it until I get onto the YouTube channel. Because people, I think they enjoy seeing me open these things. I don't know why, but it seems to make you happy. So, click it in like that. Remove this. And here we have our Nigersaurus. Now, I like it a lot, actually. So, first and foremost, so while the other one's more growling, this is more of a mooing kind of noise. Let's see, the DNA code's right here. So what makes Nigersaurus special to me, at least, is that it is one of the last of the Diplodocus line. So in the sauropods, as far as the new sauropods, the long necks, the two major groups that people are familiar with are the Diplodocids, which are like Diplodocus and Apatosaurus, those guys. And the other side are the Macronarians, macro meaning large, narian your nose hole, so the Brachiosauruses, the Camarasaurus, and later on the Titanosaurus. So what's going on is that the Macronarians usually kind of replace or are more successful in the Cretaceous period than the Podocoids. So the idea is that in the Jurassic they're pretty much equally kind of there, and then by Cretaceous period, early Cretaceous, the Macronarians are going to take over more, and by late Cretaceous we have mainly these guys, or mainly not Macronarians, but mainly the Titanosaurs. This guy, of course, is one of the last of the Diplodocus, and Paul Serena did a lot of research on the skull and how their mouths, which the toy doesn't really show it that well. This one kind of does. So the idea is that the mouth is like a vacuum cleaner, so it's really wide and flat. And so the idea is that the Diplodocus lineage are evolving with the whole of their body to feed more like this. So they're standing in one area and they're feeding. It's called like this in one spot. Instead of walking around and like a cow grazing, they're just eating one area like that without moving very much. So again, the mouth doesn't quite show that, which it is kind of wide, kind of at the lower jaw. You kind of hint at it, but I don't think it's a weird mouth sauropod. Usually they have like this or like that, and so that's why it made it stand out to me personally. Anyway, so again, I'm happy. I can't say it's for sure, but I think that the toy manufacturers like copy each other because, yes, it's depicted as being green usually in media, but you see this one and then another company has the exact same kind of color pattern, and then Jurassic World kind of copies the color pattern. It's like, kind of interesting. So, at any rate, the idea is that it's, visually, they're a lovely family, and I like that a lot too, except for the one that died. So next we have, actually, like Dinosaur Tetris, Angry Dinosaur Tetris. Excuse me. One of the fun things kids don't know about paleontology is that when you travel to go dig, you leave your climate. So I grew up on the Gulf Coast, for example, and Houston and Channelview area, and I go to Wyoming, or I go to Utah, or I go to South Dakota, and it's a different climate, a different altitude. You get headaches because you're not used to that different, climate or height. I know, for example, I kept getting headaches because we went to like 10,000 feet above the Beartooth Pass, and I had a really big headache, and because I was probably so high up. But I touched snow for the first time in a mountaintop, not just falling on the ground. Anyway, so some of you probably live in places where that's normal, but for people in the Gulf Coast and Texas where it's super hot, not so much. So next we have our Elasmosaurus, which is another one I saw, and I was like, interesting. I mean, I'm not personally like super excited about Plesiosaurus, but the idea is that it's, and I've done, one of my earlier videos was Elasmosaurus, and so I was excited to look at this guy and see how it looks. Now, first and foremost, I should go ahead and open it up. Let's see. So if I'm coughing, I apologize because I'm still trying to adjust and everything with all the traveling. Oh, very light. And someone reminded me when I opened the Sinotyrannus, I did not get the capture gear. And so do know I bought a second Sinotyrannus just to have the capture gear in my collection. I threw the first one away. So I'm very mindful now. Thank you for that comment. I'm very mindful now to see and make sure I grab those things. But to me, the overall, the joke about it is, I'm clearly more interested in the dinosaur or figure than the capture gear. So it's like, whatever. But I don't want to like lose something that I paid for. And it's always, in theory, you just cut two things and get a toy. The capture gear is like behind. I'm like, okay, who's stealing capture gear? I don't know. All right, so there we go. And essentially, to make sure I'm doing this right, it's like a backpack that goes in front. Okay, yeah, there we go. So first and foremost, the animal, I want to point out that its DNA code is right here. You can see that there. We don't know about that quite. There's no like Spinosaurus style neural spine. There have been hypotheses that, like the Ichthyosaurus, the vertebra and the tail go down, and maybe there's like another set of like cartilaginous growth to make that kind of great white shark-looking tail pattern, but not this neural spine look. As far as the overall look thing goes, I want to point out that if you push this one, it does this. If you push this one, it does that. So left down to the left, and down to the left. So the flippers can articulate either way, like up and down, which is cool because Plesiosaurus, Dr. Bacher calls them double penguins because a penguin is a football-shaped animal that swims through the water really well, and you double that up and you have a super fast animal. So Elasmosaurus is the most, I think, not the Plesiosaurus, this is a Papoplesiosaurus, is of course the earliest one of the earliest ones known, is really well popular. They're only like 11 feet long, 10 feet long. Elasmosaurus, here is the 1990 Safari Elasmosaurus, and this is a 2013. So one thing to point out is that the idea of their necks kind of arching up like that is not so much believed anymore. Focus maybe like more of a flatter neck like this, where they can kind of like, because with the vertebrae they're very long, and they don't have that. Well, they're not very long. I'm thinking pterosaurs, but the idea is that this kind of doing that periscoping is not always probably thought anymore. Their focus mainly is catching squid, basically, maybe fish. And so these two, again, I went over this in more detail in the video on Elasmosaurus. Looking at the big guy here, I mean, given that what it is, it's pretty good. I like it a lot. As far as marine reptiles go, it's the Plesiosaurs that are most likely to have been able to go on the beach, basically. So Ichthyosaurus are like giant dolphins. They wouldn't have done that. The Mosasaurs are really long. It's less likely. But Plesiosaurus kind of have the proportions of a sea turtle, but in one neck. So it's been hypothesized they may have kind of crawled on the beach like that. So that's kind of seen here. I like the skin texture. I'm not sure if there's, I don't know if there's any papers on Plesiosaur skin impressions, but it's just neat to look at as far as the overall. Oh, cool, yeah. So just to make sure I go over this, because apparently a lot of kids watch this channel with their parents. Family time, for some reason. They choose it here, I don't know, thank you. Let's see. So you, like a backpack, you put it here, and you put it here. Now, what I don't understand, if it's capture gear, the animal can still swim in this. So it's like a tracking device that you just kind of put on it, because I know normally when they do it to a shark, there's a dorsal fin and they just kind of puncture the fin and they can track it that way. Maybe it's that. I don't know. I'm not a Jurassic Park engineer. But really cool model. Now the next guy, or next family, or next set I have to show was, I've been watching this in Target for quite some time. I believe I was at a Target in Colorado, and it was for sale. It was, the price went down, and I was like, well, now I have to have it. And so, first and foremost, this is a model of the trailer from cardboard boxing of the trailer for Jurassic Park 2. I have the real, not the real, but the original trailer from '97 down there. And so, these are the two figures. It's a baby Stegosaurus, the adult. If you remember in Jurassic Park 2, Lost World, or Lost World, Jurassic Park, one of those two. Sarah Harding, who, which is ironically Sarah Harding, Ian Malcolm's girlfriend, played by Julia Moore. She specifically told the guys, like, don't touch anything, don't leave any scent, don't give it to your trash. And she goes in and she touches Stegosaurus' face, baby's face, and the herd's right next to it. Anyway, so one thing to point out with this baby Stegosaurus and the adult that I have noticed with the Brachiosaurus too, the baby has 4 toes and 4 fingers. The adult has 4 toes and 5 fingers. And the Brachiosaurus baby has a different number of one of the other 2, which is kind of weird. So that's the kind of thing that I'm like, well, first of all, Stegosaurus has 3 toes, so they're both wrong there. And for Stegosaurus, the front forelimbs, the first 2 would be very long, the next 2 are smaller, and then the little one is like a nubbin. And so they didn't get that right on the feet, which I went on my giant Stegosaurus video a while ago, which is below the description. So anyway, what I do like about this guy is that the tail spike isn't that large, and so we do understand. I mean, we have not found baby Stegosaurus specimen, but we have found like horned dinosaurs like ceratopsians, and their horns when they're first born or younger, they're really small enough. They would have been born with like large tail spikes or large plates. They would have been very small, and if they got older, they would have grown more. Kind of like a deer with his antlers, to get bigger and bigger every year. So that's kind of cool. But overall, like with this particular model, I want to point out that this mold has been reused over and over again. So I have the original one they made when the first Jurassic World came out, and then they have, and I can't remember all of the different series and sets, but the idea is that here you have this action here. Oh yeah, you do that, the tail moves and shakes his booty. Shake your booty. And so this one, same thing. No, what are we doing here? I can't remember. Or is it? No, it has to be something. Oh, there it is. Yeah, like that. So tail swiping action, which I've been over before. 45 tail vertebra, a lot of muscle attachments to turn and twist and aim. So it's like you have the kind of like the herd here of all the ones together in part 2 or Jurassic Park Lost World. So that's kind of a cool thing to have. I didn't really intend to set out to get this herd, but now that I have it, I'm like, you know what, I like this. And so there's Sarah, has my humans. I did mention with the Nigersaurus, ecology-wise, I think last time I showed you the actual, excuse me, the actual figures. Again, the parts of paleontology you don't see, the recovery from the field. In fact, we drove back and took almost a little over 4 days. It took our time, and I remember I'm still tired. I've gone to work since then, and I'm just like so tired. Anyway, so I did show you the early Cretaceous, Niger, Africa. The last Nigersaurus video I mentioned this, but what I want to make sure you understood is that the Eocaria, Suchomimus, Sarcosuchus, these 4 dinosaurs are from the exact same time period, the exact same locality. And again, I know most kids don't care about this, but I really do. And so the idea is that in Jurassic Park, you see all these animals kind of thrown together as the storyline progresses with genetics and all that. But in the fossil record, there's, people say, how do you remember all these things, James? Well, there's all these animals are divided by different time periods, and within the time period, like early and late, and within that, there's subdivisions, and within that, certain parts of the world. So what's really cool about the Nigersaurus, the Suchomimus, Sarcosuchus, and the Eocaria is that these 4 animals are found in the exact same time and place. So if you are as uptight as I am, and you want to play with them in their, I don't play with them, but if you want to play with them in the right locality and space, this is a group that go together. And that's kind of a cool thing to point out, that the company, or Mattel, I think it's Mattel, has made this set. And unintentionally, but there it is. And so the final thing I want to go over before I call this video quits, because it's gone way too long, there's so much going on here. Okay, so let's put you, what's that? Well, that's someone's little knife. It goes in there, I think it's Owen's knife. Interesting. It's full of surprises. So this video is the last new model I have that's been already done, and that will be the Atrociraptor. Now, in the movie, we have 4 Atrociraptor. Oh no, that's just too far away. Give me a second. I don't want to get up. I'm very lazy right now. I'll just reach over here and pull you this way. Oh, there we go. Thank the maker. So first and foremost, the 4. I can't. They have names that they don't say in the movie, which is fun. But because I remember, and I read some of the media, they were like, "Yeah, they all have names," and they never said them. I'm like, "Okay, what's the point of giving them names if you don't?" Anyway, so here are the 4 that were in the movie. You may have seen those little boxes at Walmart, the mystery boxes. I have, and they have the 2. They're just these guys smaller. Actually, these 2 smaller, but I consider them babies. So if you're trying to build a pack or something, that's your go. Then there was this other one that was sold, kind of a variation of this. Well, they're all the same guy, but I had a different paint with a backpack. And then finally at Walmart, I found this. No company, it just says made in China, but this Atrociraptor figure here, which to me looks more like a Velociraptor. The skull's very low. They only found this part of the Atrociraptor that I'm aware of. And so they only have and even then the nose is shaped differently than the real thing. So, you know, what are we doing here, guys? Which is ironic because the Velociraptor ones that are labeled look like the Dakosaurus or something. Anyway, so this is the one. Hopefully the last one from Jurassic I'll be buying. And our scissors are right here. There we go. Huzzah! And so it's the same mold. Difference is you do this and headbutt, so you can play your rock and roll music. It's like that, right? Actually, let me see. It looks like the arms are shorter. The face is. Now I will give them credit that the nose being more tall. That's based on what we have, the animal. Oh, the DNA code is here because that's again super important. Oh, I didn't show you that for the. Does this one have a DNA code? I don't know. Oh, it's before. I think it's either before that. Cool. Anyway. I look at that anyway. So arms are here, same parts. Just have a little bit of feathers right along there, which is cool. And the mouth opens on it. You have to do it manually. That's pretty much it. So, like I said, these are all figures that I've already done videos for, and I have all the videos in order of how I explained them to you in the description below to see the history of the animal, who discovered it, when, and all that. The normal stuff. I just wanted to kind of show you the newer batch of figures and where they kind of fit in and all that. That being said, I'll see you next week with a new species I'm looking forward to. It could be a Tyrannosaur relative that has weird spawn. I'm looking at it right. It's over there. I'll see you next week.